Meetings come to order, please. I always get a kick out of this thing. First item of business is public comment. Anybody wants to speak, raise their hand to be recognized. Come to the podium, name and address, 3 minutes. Very excitable crew tonight. Okay, we'll move on to the next thing. Item number 3, racetrack public hearing. I'll now open the public hearing. Is anybody here to speak for the track?
Joe Bassett, the general manager. Basically, we have presented the typical 23-date schedule with retest and tunes. We do have some things that are still in the planning stages as far as to be determined. We do know the dates, and we do realize after what we had last year with the demolition derby, that as soon as we know what they'll be, we'll be in front of you to explain to you what they're going to be instead of letting them get out to the public like last year.
I have a question. I have it in front of me. Hopefully we have the same one. You know, the rain dates 1 and 2, it says Saturday, April 21st and Saturday, April 22nd. I assume those are the rain dates associated with the April 15th, 2018 Sunday if it rains? I'm just wondering if it's, you pick one or the other, I guess, or are you going to...
Oh, because there's a test and tune on the day before the ACT race, and then there should have been a test, yeah, this is...
Yeah, there's a test and tune April 14th, right, which precedes the Sunday, April 15th, I got that one. And then the rain date is April 21st, and then it says a Saturday, then a Sunday, April 22nd rain date.
The Saturday, April 21st would be the rain date if we lost the test and tune. So it's the following weekend, Saturday, Sunday, to make up for the ACT race if we lost the weekend.
Okay. Questions?
I got confused with that too when you pointed it out.
When I first saw it, I go, yeah, it's a little, usually you have a race date and then you have a rain date.
Yep,
Yes, okay, I got it.
that'd be the rain date for the test and tune.
Thank you. Board.
I'm good.
Anybody from the public have questions associated with the public hearing? Questions, Julie? Chief?
I'm good.
Public hearing is now closed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Therefore, I move to accept the Lee USA Speedway 2018 proposed operations schedule and grant them a license subject to the conditions imposed by the Lee racetrack ordinance, including inspections by the building inspector, fire chief, police chief, and submission of a certificate of insurance to the town administrator.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope you have a very successful season.
We
Thank
need it.
you. After all the rain last year, we
Yeah, we
definitely
need
need
it.
it this year.
Yeah.
You're leaving us so quickly?
I still have work to do to get ready for the season.
Thank you. Good. Next item of business, Dr. Morris, Superintendent, School Budget Review. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Just going to rearrange the furniture a little bit. There's copies of our PowerPoint over on the table if you haven't got one. I apologize for not being able to point these at you guys. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for allowing me this time, once again, to talk about the school budget. A big part of the school budget is going to be about the Massway School, so I think this is a good year for Lee in terms of the investment the school system is going to be making. Just want to go through this PowerPoint, talk about what the school board's goals are for the year. district highlights. For me, it's always important to say, what are you getting for your tax dollars? District enrollment, which is always of interest to everyone, not just by school, but giving you a projection for 5 years and giving you the town enrollment. Then I'll talk a little bit about the budget and the warrant articles. Before I get into that too deeply, I just want to make sure I remember to say this. I hope that the selectmen can come Wednesday night and work with the school board and the council in Durham and the select board in Madbury on our strategic plan. The work that we'll be doing on Wednesday night, it actually is the first round of focus groups, and we're hopeful that elected officials can make it. And I extended that invitation to Julie as well as Eric in Madbury and Todd in Durham. So it's a really important issue. Our current strategic plan ends in the upcoming school year, and so we're doing work now so that we will just smoothly transition to 2019 to 2024. So if you can make it, it would just be wonderful.
Where's the meeting at, Counselor?
It's at the high school and the library.
Okay.
So every budget the board goes through, they go back to the academic vision for the district, and our budget for each year reflects that vision. In this instance, the school board wanted the proposed budget to include all negotiated contracts. Last year, the negotiated contracts sat outside the budget and added to the overall cost. This year, the board wanted them inside the budget. And last year, the school board allowed some of the revenue that we raised from Barrington, the tuition revenue, to offset the operating costs, because this particular budget was a very difficult one to put together. And we used pretty much all of our rainy day fund of about $500,000 just to keep the cost relatively reasonable. This year, that tuition revenue will offset that revenue so that it makes it easier for the 3 towns to afford the school budget. And the other part of that is the school board wants to start replacing that $500,000, so they've set a goal of putting $100,000 back into that account. No petition warrants were submitted. We were wondering whether we would have a petition warrant. They sometimes appear each year. We don't have any control over that, but none did this year, so we're in good shape. The board, in the course of this school year, really tried to pull back on new initiatives and allow initiatives that have been passed by them in the past to mature and get some feedback on them. So that's the case here. So some of the goals for this year were the later start time at the high school and middle school. That was implemented. Last May, before it was implemented, we did a survey of parents and students to get baseline data to see whether the later start time has been beneficial. We'll ask that same question in May of this year so that we can get a sense of whether the later start time was helpful. Another big issue for the school board was the stress that the students are under today. And what we find is that if you offer 7 courses a day, our kids will take 7 courses a day. They're very aggressive learners. And so the school board's been worried about the stress on our teenagers in terms of high academic expectations that the school system has, as well as parents have of the children. And so we've been doing some really hard looks at how we build our master schedule at the high school, the middle school, and the homework load that goes along with that. So recently the school board got a proposal from the high school on a completely revamped master schedule at the high school. So that kind of goes in partnership with the later start time, trying to figure out ways to do the work that we do well, but without putting the kids through a lot of stress in order to get there. The other big issue is the homework load on kids, and the high school is currently underway in that endeavor, as well as the middle school. We switched completely at the middle school to a competency-based approach to learning. And basically what that is you set high goals, you let the kids and the parents know what those goals are at the front of the course, and then by the time that course is over, you'll be able to articulate whether the children have met those goals or not. And so far, that's going extremely well. Communication's always an issue, I'm sure it is for you guys. It's just like, how many times can you tell people, inform people, and educate people about what's going on? And then we expanded our world language program to grade 6 this year, Spanish, French, and Chinese, and that is going very well. So the two new goals are the beginning of the strategic plan that I just talked about a little bit ago. And you guys will be the first ones out the gate in relation to that work. We'll end up inviting we have invited almost 90 community members outside of the select boards and counselors. Our teachers, of course, our para-educators, our custodians, our food service workers. So when we're done going through all these focus groups, we'll probably have talked to well over 200 people. And then the big issue that I've talked about every single year that I've been here is the middle school. The middle school has been a great building for the district. It's 81 years old. It's served its time well, but it is time to consider what we want to do with it. In that regard, Scott's been part of our facilities committee, and we've been working diligently to try to figure out what our next move is related to the middle school. That decision should be made in May or June of this year, and then we'll be focused in on whether we're replacing it, renovating it, or relocating it. So those are the goals for the year. So where we are in terms of district highlights, the district continues to outperform most of New Hampshire, and quite frankly, most of the nation. We've had the highest aggregate SAT score in the district's history. And for the first time, the math score was higher than the ELA score. And every year I've come to talk to you, I've talked about our emphasis on the math program, because our ELA program, English Language Arts program, was always stellar, but our math program wasn't as competitive. It is now. And that's due to a lot of work by Todd Allen and the faculty, and something that we all can be proud of. 5 years ago, we were the 6th highest performing public high school in New Hampshire. Today, we're the 2nd highest performing high school in New Hampshire. So we're doing really well there. Another place where we're doing extremely well is our college placement rate. And you can see 74% of our graduating students go on to a 4-year college, and 16% go on to a 3, 2, or 1-year program, and 8% of our kids go into the military, and 2% of our students go into a gap year. They take a break between their senior year of high school and their freshman year in college. High school graduation rate, phenomenal, 99.6%. So we'd all expect a lot of those numbers to reflect Oyster River, but the other barometer I use is how are we doing with our special needs population. And these are youngsters who have learning disabilities, and I'm proud to say to you and to the community that 100% of our special needs population graduate. And if you need a comparison, you can compare 100% to 67% nationwide. So, we have this expectation of Oyster River to be a high-performing school district, but we're also high-performing when our youngsters struggle. 39.5% of those kids go on to a 4-year college, and 39.5% of them go on to a 3, 2, or 1-year program. And 21% of our special needs population goes straight into the workforce. This particular year, 0% entered the military. So every year, the state of New Hampshire measures the success of our special needs program, and for the 3rd year in a row, we meet 100% of state expectations. So we're not just doing a good job for those students who are well-sponsored, we're doing a good job for those kids who also have learning handicaps. As I said, we've expanded our world language program to grade 6. And then we started a new program, and this is going to become public. It's public now, but there'll be a press release coming out of the university. We'll be the first high school in the state that does an early college program with the university. So what that means is that juniors and seniors at Oyster River High School will be able to take college courses at the university. First course, free. The second course thereafter is $800 compared to $4,000 for kids in a bachelor's program. So benefit of that, of course, is that I will be coming to you as select boards or counselors or the community, adding more courses to our curriculum because our kids will be able to tap into the college curriculum of the university. Benefit to the students, very obvious. Benefit to the parents, $800 versus $4,000. And benefit to the community because I don't need to add more programming to our high school. I talked about the competency-based program we're doing at the middle school. We're also working on that at the high school. We talked about the start time change, and our high school was reaccredited, fully reaccredited, without condition this fall. So that's a credit to the high school staff. We continue to work on mental health and wellness. That's why we talked about the start time. That's why we talked about homework. That's why we talked about the master schedule, because teenagers today have just a whole pile of things they have to get through, and the pressure doesn't relent. So just in terms of the current strategic plan, when we started the plan 4 years ago, our math program was in the forefront, needed improvement. Our music program was in the forefront, needed improvement. We have more children in music today than we've ever had. We have a magnificent strings program. Again, I would recommend anybody in the room to attend a high school concert or a middle school concert. They are really fabulous. Our technology plan, we are in 3-year rotation. Our buses, 5 years ago, we had transmissions failing, brakes failing, sadly, with kids on the bus. All of our buses, except for 3 of our buses tonight, have been replaced over our technology plan cycle. Our school nutrition program, and I would encourage any of you to grab a school lunch sometime, because you will be eating a really fabulous lunch. Our director, Doris Tremere, entered into agreements with local farmers, and we have had fresh vegetables now for the last 4 school years. Beginning this school year, we have fresh vegetables every single day in our lunchroom, because we entered into a first-of-its-kind relationship with a horticulture program at the university. And so we end up just with fabulous vegetables. So I'd encourage you to stop by sometime and have a salad out the salad bar. You'd be really impressed. 5 years ago, the district taxpayers were putting $96,000 into this program. This year, $0. We made $18,000 last year on the program, and that's due to the improvement in the quality. Parents are participating, having their children participate. It's really a state-of-the-art food service program, so we're pretty excited by that. Just to give you a sense of enrollment in the district, I shared with you this in the fall. Massway School now has more students than the Mohammed School. These are October 1st enrollments. Massway's at 352, Mohammed at 343. The middle school's at 660 and the high school's at 793. So the enrollment on October 1st was 2,165 kids. So again, if you go back just a little bit in time, people were predicting the school system would get smaller, that we'd have fewer students than 2,000. Our projected enrollment, this is the long-range planning committee work, and that committee's been in place for 2 decades at least, long before I got here. They are projecting our enrollment over the next 5 years will hover in the 2,100 area. So we're in pretty good shape in terms of our projections. Another set of projections that I don't use very regularly, because the long-range planning committee puts so much more effort and time into their work, actually shows our enrollment higher than this. So that's good news and there's bad news. And we'll talk about the good news and the bad news in a minute. If you want to get a sense of where you've been as a town, you can see in 2013, Lee was at 703 children. Today it's at 705. And you say, well, we're growing. Well, in the intervening years, you kind of put a dip. Now you're coming back. One of the nice things about the strategic plan work that if you participate on Wednesday, you already have a sense of the housing development in your own town, but you'll get a sense of housing developments in Madbury and what's happening in Durham. And the overall impression is homes are selling, and they're selling to families. And so that's really what's driving the Massway enrollment. You can see that 5 years ago, we only had 68 children from Barrington, and today we have 140. And that gives you a sense of that by town. So I said earlier that this is really the year of Mastway, and what's driving that is enrollment. So I'll just grab one of these for a second so that the community can see as well. So, this is the back corner of the building by the baseball field, the pink. And what we're proposing is adding 4 classrooms onto the Mastway School in order to accommodate the increased enrollment. We began that process with the planning board. I didn't quite know the process, and I called Julie prematurely, and she stuck me back on track with the planning board. And so we're still working with the planning board. We're having the property line between the school and the town walked on Thursday. And once that's done, we go back to the planning board. We will need a variance eventually from the select board in terms of vehicles being able to get onto the property, because the only way they can get on our property is via your property. So we'll come back later and talk some more about that. So that pink, so everybody can see that, is $1 million, $1.1 million. And that is in the proposed budget. So the reason we're not bonding that is because we're going to shift all of our capital account to the Mastway School for this upcoming school year. So normally that $1 million would be spread between the high school, the middle school, Mohammed School, and Mastway. But we think that this need is so great that we need to redirect our entire capital account to Lee. The blue is another project that you'll see going on this summer, and that's the result of Carrie Vaish, our principal, and Jim Rosicki, our facilities director, and Sue Caswell, 4 years ago, did a Homeland Security analysis of the Mastway School. And Homeland Security determined that the way that the principal's office was set up, in its current setup, Carrie is buried in the corner, sort of the building. She doesn't have a clear view of the outside. The secretaries don't have a clear view of the outside. They have cameras, but the disadvantage of cameras is they're fixed, whereas our eyes can scan. We can see. I mean, I'm sure the chief will tell you that he relies on his eyes more than he does a camera in his car. And that's the same principle here. So we didn't think we would be able to do this project, but because the staff did the Homeland Security analysis, we were eligible for $72,000 worth of state grant money. So what happened in the last legislative session is the state had $19 million that they wanted to commit to schools. And they had to be based on safety or E-rate technology. And so this was a safety issue. So of all the school systems in the state, we're one of the ones that got the biggest award from Concord and Department of Education because we were the most ready. And when we did that Homeland Security piece, it was actually to have the chief guide us through what we could do in a practical kind of way. And not only that, but now we really get to improve the front of the building. So this is that blue area. So while we're improving the safety, we'll be able to improve the looks of the front of the building as well. So that would be the end of the conversation, except I have one more piece to go. And that is that I talked about this last time I was here. We entered into a lease purchase arrangement with Siemens. And so in your handout, you'll see that the front of the building, from one corner and literally to the end, will get new windows. And then those new windows will carry itself all the way around the building. So every window in the Mastway School will get replaced. And that's true of Moheramet, and that's, so that we're going to replace all of the windows in the 2 elementary schools. So why? Well, the most pressing issue was the fact that the Moheramet school, when it was built, they put in single pane windows, not double pane windows that you and I would do in our homes, but single pane. So those needed to be replaced the day they opened the school. The life cycle on the windows in the Massway School were within three years. And so you all know, as selectmen, that you can't let your windows degrade, because if those degrade, then you end up with rot in your sills and water inside your casements, and pretty soon you end up having to replace a lot more than just windows. So all of the windows in the Massway School will be replaced. And that would be the end of the story, except I have one more investment that we'll be making in the Massway School as well, and that is we're going to switch all of these fluorescent lighting over to LED. The research on LED versus fluorescent is compelling. Sometimes you catch the flicker in fluorescent. That's what causes people to get headaches. I tell the personal story. I'm one of the 17% of white males whose eyes change color in my older age. So I've gone from green eyes to blue eyes, and when that happened, the fluorescent lights started giving me migraines. So we switched over to LED in my office to test them out, and instantly the migraines went away. And so the other added advantage of LED, of course, is they're more cost effective. So they're better for your eyes, and they're cheaper to operate, and so we'll get payback on the LED lighting. So overall, it's probably about a $4 million investment in the Massway School through grants, leases, and direct taxpayer funding. So we're pretty proud of that. Gave you another slide just to give you a sense again of where in the building, just in case you guys, it's the back corner where those classrooms would go. So that brings us to the budget itself. You know, same issues that you see running the town. Obviously, staffing costs are what drives us. I mean, our numbers are bigger because we have so many more employees. So we finished negotiations with the bus drivers and our paraprofessionals, paraeducators. We really put a lot of effort into the bus driver contract because of the shortage. We needed to make sure that our bus driver positions looked attractive, that they paid competitively, and the benefits were there. So our bus driver contract is going to cost $54,083 more. Our support staff personnel, and just in case you're trying to figure that out, there's 30 drivers and probably about 100 paras. So the support staff contract will be about $64,876. We're anticipating a 5.4% increase in health insurance, and that's $287,000. And as part of all of this capital investment, we continue to add money to the capital account. So that's $341,906. One way of looking at that is it's $341,906 compared to almost $4 million investment just in the Massway School through grants and redirecting the technology facilities account. A technology lease is at $24,000. We needed to add 2 staffing positions to the Massway School to accommodate the increased students, so that's why that's up $188,000. And then we're in the second year of the Teacher Guild agreement. It's about 200 teachers, and that's $568,708. So to give you a sense of where we've been, you know, if you take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, beginning in the 12-13 year and going forward, that's Sue and I together. We've tried to be pretty rational in our approach to school budgets. There were years in this district where 16%, 8%, 7% were typical. You haven't seen any of that since we've been working together. Total impact on the budget is 3.2%, a little bit less than what the school board asked us to come into the year with. And that does include the contracts, the negotiated contracts, so it's a hard 3.2%. If you wanted to get a sense of where the money's being spent, you can see that the driver this year, in terms of elementary, is Massway by far. And then, in fact, Massway is almost as much as the high school in terms of increase. And facilities, again, going across district-wide, is a big increase, but the total budget, again, is at 3.2. So when we come back to the impact of the towns, and this is something that you guys know better than most, we're making gross estimates at this point in the year. You know, we're a good 10 months before we know what these really are. But as you can see, at 3.2%, the town of Lee in total will see about 23-cent increase. Be glad, I guess, that you're not the town of Banbury this year, because a loss of students and loss of state revenue is crushing them. So that gives you that. If the voters decided not to support our budget, we would have to cut $69,571 from the budget, so our default budget is $69,571 less than our proposed budget. And it's a pretty simple warrant situation for us this year. Sometimes there are complex years, sometimes they're not, and this one is not. So the first warrant article is about the bus drivers, pretty straightforward. The second warrant article is about our para-educators. And then article number 5 is our total budget. And that gives you a sense of where we are. So I'm in the second of 3 meetings. I've done Durham, and now I'm here with you tonight, and I'll be doing Madbury next week. And then deliberative session is also next week, so hopefully you guys can be there. And then we await the voters' will on March 13th. So I'll be glad to answer any questions of the selectmen or the public.
First of all, let me thank you for a concise and straightforward discussion. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Question, what's the maximum that could be in the high school? Just curiosity.
Well, John, this is a really good question, because there's the state maximum, there's the building capacity, and then there's the school board policy. And all 3 of them will give you a different number. So if you based it on the state guidelines, it would be 1,200. If you base it on class size, it's right around 800. And so, it's obviously I work under the school board's policy. And, when we were doing the agreement with Barrington, many community members came forward in that public hearing and said, please don't let the high school get much bigger than 800. So in the next 4 years, we'll see the high school, creep up into the 840 kind of area, but then it's going to start going back down again. So the Barrington agreement is in its 4th year. The most that they can provide us is 200 students. We'll be at 158? 68 next year. In my conversations with Todd and the superintendent in Barrington, I really don't think we'll get much bigger than that. Dover's building a new high school that'll be attractive. There's always the legacy issue of Code Brown for them. And so at some point we think we'll level off. Probably it'll be 1920, that's what I think.
Getting to the project on the Massway School, how long would it take? I think you see it's going to start in April, I read.
Yeah, we hope, it all depends on planning board and getting, your go-ahead in terms of access right away. But we hope to start in April, as soon as possible. I would guess that we'll probably be into October, November. We probably be doing a punch list in November. That would be what I would hope. Does that make sense to you, Sue, from conversations you've had? Yeah. So it's probably a 6-month. We're going to be very aggressive. We use Bowen Construction as our site managers, and he is super. He worked for us on the Moheramet expansion, on their cafeteria. He's worked for us on the athletic fields, and so we're very comfortable with him, and he really makes people get their work done.
As you know, I sit in the planning board as a representative of the Board of Selectmen, but,
I did not know that.
well, I do, so I know a little bit about what's being proposed. And you talked about access, I just thought maybe you would talk about it a little bit for the public at this time.
Sure, if you want.
Yeah, I know that part of the issue is that you have to come to the town of Lee's land at this point to get to where you want to go. And I guess there was a presentation at the planning board that trying to find the best route would require maybe taking down some trees.
Sure.
And I
So-
thought maybe you speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, would you mind being better? So just hold it up high enough so the public can see. So construction's here, so it makes sense that we would come in here, but there's a bunch of trees here. The other option is to come in back here, and my understanding is, in both locations, there are dead trees and dangerous trees that need to go down. So it's really, when we get to the place of asking for permission, Jim Rizicki, the facilities manager, will have, had conversations, and ultimately, we would be either asking for access here, so we have to cross your town line here, or we'd be asking back here. And there, in both locations, there are trees that need to be going.
Absolutely.
Rightfully going, they should be going anyway, because there's some pretty dangerous trees in both locations.
I'll probably be asking the Conservation Commission to work with us on that particular issue about which might be the best route about certain trees. I do know there's dead trees, and
Yeah.
it'd probably work for both of us
Yeah,
at this point.
so it's kind of an interesting town line, between the two schools. So this must have probably been divided at some point by the time, must have been town property originally, huh?
I would imagine, that. We do have some historians around here.
Yeah.
Scott has been doing pretty good in the history lately. Please, go ahead.
Would that wouldn't be a permanent access?
No,
You-
no.
You would restore it after the construction, plant some other trees or something?
Absolutely, we do whatever is required of us. It wouldn't be permanent, and, we would work with the town in relation to replacement for sure.
Thank you.
Questions from the board?
No, I'm good.
Do you need a staging area? What are you gonna use? Because you're gonna have a road to access it, but they're gonna need a staging area for things. Where is that gonna be, do you know?
Well, I think it'll ultimately depend, Scott, on which access point we come on at.
Because the property line is really
Yeah,
close there.
yeah, we're practically in your backyard.
Kind of. I have a couple other questions.
Sure.
Page 4, you reference we're the second highest performing school district. Of
Mhm.
course, you know
Public
what I'm
school
gonna ask.
system.
Yes. Who's number 1? Is it Hanover?
Hanover.
Hanover, it's always Hanover.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, that used to be over 100%, 100 points difference, and it's 60 points difference now. So we've cut that in half.
I
We're
think-
closing, but they don't know it.
I think they probably do.
Are you
but-
sure?
On slide, page number 7, you spoke a little bit about this in terms of Barrington. I think when you came last year, they were ramping up. So are they at like their highest level at the moment, or what is their, you mentioned 168.
Yeah,
Do you expect more, or are they still ramping up, or are they kind of?
well, they're ramping up. 168 is a ramp up from this year.
Right,
So we're at 140,
140 this year, yeah.
140.
so is 168? is this the-
200 is the max.
So that's where you think they're gonna plateau at?
No, that's where the contract gives them they have a ceiling in our contract, it's 200 kids.
Okay.
So if you ask me what I think it'll settle at,
Yeah.
I'm guessing it'll settle around 175 to 180.
All right.
But I don't have any data to support that, Scott, that's just me.
That's your gut.
That's my
Is your
gut.
gut good, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's based on their waiting list. Every year they have a waiting list and they have to go to a lottery for kids to come to us.
Oh,
And it's been around 175 to 178 kids every single year. So the closer we get, the fewer kids have to wait.
mhm.
So it's interesting. I would not want to be in charge of a lottery for going to Oyster River because that gets very contentious over there.
So if your child is in Barrington and they already go to Oyster River, do they automatically get to continue till they graduate, or
That's
is
part
there
of,
still?
that's
an-
part of their policy. If you have a sibling that's in the high school and you have a younger sibling who wants to go, they get in the front of the line.
Oh, okay, preferential treatment.
Just to be, the lottery is just for the incoming freshman class. Once you're
Okay.
in, you stay till the
Oh,
end.
that's,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
thanks.
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 Two things on page number 9. How much did you get as a grant for that expansion in the front?
$572,000
Okay.
and change, there's a little bit more.
Okay. And in terms of, so one of the new classrooms is music, so that means they're moving out of the stage area? So the stage is going to become the stage?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
instead of,
That's interesting.
Go back to what it was originally designed for.
exactly.
My other question is in terms of, I know in terms of the middle school, one of the things that they deal with is in terms of so many students, so many lunch periods,
Mhm.
you're adding all these extra kids. How is
Yeah.
that going to work with the core facilities?
That's a great question, Scott. So, you know, it's like every other project, you can't do everything you want to do in 1 year. So in the following school budget, we'll be proposing an expansion to the cafeteria that won't be anywhere nearly as expensive as all of this, but eventually I just ran out of capital account. And we would have done it in this school year because it would have been ideal to do that while we had all the machines there, but in the end, there just wasn't enough dollars, so.
So you just extend the cafeteria out
Towards
toward
the
the parking
parking lot.
lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what we plan on doing the following school year.
So total, there's 3 classrooms, so an extra 60 kids can fit, or?
Well, what's going to happen is we have doubled up on one classroom this year in order to make the kids fit into the building the way they should have. We'll be decoupling that classroom, and that will give 2 of the classrooms, and then we anticipate the need for 1 additional classroom in the upcoming school year.
So you have one that's kind of free?
We'll have one that is perhaps undesignated, we'll see, because it's, schools are interesting just like houses. The more space you have, the more you use. And so it's very possible that the 4th space in this upcoming school year may not have a classroom attached to it, but it will probably take our remedial program and break it out of the 1 classroom it's in, but then the following year it'll become a classroom.
So that, with these particular additions, what does that bring Massway's capacity up to?
Again, same answer I gave John. I would use school board policy to answer that, and it's about 372.
Thanks.
And the program that you have with the university, which I think is quite interesting, what do you think it might max out with?
The number of kids or the number of courses?
Well, either at this
So
point.
I've had experience opening up college opportunity to high school kids in my job when I was superintendent in Oakland. And Oakland superintendency is very similar to Oyster River. And by the time I left, we had 157 kids taking college courses. So it's a pretty amazing opportunity for the students and for the parents. So, you know, if we repeat that success here, we'll have over 100 courses being taken. And that's in addition to college courses that the kids can take now at our high school. So we have an arrangement with Great Bay College right now where Great Bay will certify our high school teachers to teach their college courses. And so when our students take those courses that are called dual enrollment, they get high school and college credit concurrently. So this is a new endeavor in relation to that work.
Well, it's a beneficial, I sit in the Senate of the university, and Victoria Dutch, who's the enrollment manager, was just talking about how enrollment is hard to get at the university, and they're looking for ways to boost it, and I assume this is an opportunity.
Well, that was sort of the argument I made with President Huddleston, that, you know, you have some of the highest performing high school kids in the state here at your back door, and, you know, if you opened up these college courses to our high school kids, you may find that they decide to stay and matriculate at UNH. You know, they could have a full year or more of college courses done. They could go through UNH in 3 years or less.
And they provide all their own transportation for that?
They do, yeah. And the transportation hopefully will be, they can walk, I mean, Co-Drive, and you walk right off Co-Drive and you're in the university, you know, area, so. But if we, obviously, on weeks like we've had the last couple, we would provide transportation because it's too doggone cold to walk. But overall, I think we'll either provide the transportation or the kids can walk, it's not that big a deal. I said that to a parent one time and she thought I was nuts. Walk all the way to the university? It's gotta be what, quarter of a mile? Half a mile? 3/4 of a mile? Depending on what building you're going to. I'm pretty excited by that, and that was, a real credit to Todd Allen, and we approached this issue when he was high school principal, the very first year we worked together, and it took 5 years for us to make an inroad, and I'm really, really excited by that for our kids.
Getting back to the addition here, I think you said that you're gonna flag where the edge of the building is, or they're gonna flag the edge of the ownership between the town of Lee and Oyster
I don't think I said that.
I thought you said you were gonna flag it, so at least we know where the edge of
Oh,
the property is.
oh, sure, I can do that.
Yeah.
I get it, when we're doing yes, we can do that, absolutely.
Yeah, at least,
Yeah, yeah.
so that way.
Lost you, John, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so part of the Conservation Commission is here if they wanted to go out to see where the edge of the property line is.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that would
Yeah,
help tremendously. Any other questions to the board? Any other questions from the public?
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Appreciate you coming.
You're more than welcome. Julie, I can leave these if
Okay.
you want to put them here in the public safety building or in your building, wherever you see the most traffic, so people know what's going on. I'd be glad to leave them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thank you. Next item of business, Julie Glover, Town Administrator.
The first item for the board to act on is the tax exemption application from the Veteran Resort Chapel. I think, as you know, they asked for both religious and charitable exemption, which is not allowed under RSA 7223.
I move to deny the request made by the Veterans Resort Chapel for tax exemption based upon the following. An organization may not claim multiple exemptions under separate provisions of RSA 72:23. The application submitted indicates a request of both a religious exemption under RSA 72:23 and a charitable exemption under RSA 72:23(5). Do I have a
Could you
second? Please.
switch to something? I think you have.
I just wanted to say thank you for Brian. I know you guys appointed him, and he's been an amazing school board member, and I really appreciate the fact that you sent me someone of that quality.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
His wife thinks that as well.
I didn't pay him
That's
to
not
say
what
that.
she's saying.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll check it will be.
Motion's on the floor. Any further discussion?
It's also my understanding, just so it's on the record, we did send him a letter noting that.
We will be.
Oh, I thought we did already. No, we didn't?
No,
Okay.
no, the board has to vote on it.
Okay.
First.
I thought we're gonna send a letter.
We are going to send a letter
Okay.
once
But
the
after
board,
this.
once the board votes on it.
Okay.
Motion's on the floor. All in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Second item of business is a change to the poll license template based upon advice from council. We make some changes. The last time we did this was 3-4 years ago. I think there have been some new developments as the Fairpoint case still works its way through the courts, so these are changes recommended by our attorney.
I move to approve the poll and conduit license template as presented.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Oh,
Thank you.
I was already on to the next thing.
You were already ahead of me, I know.
So we've twice had HVAC technicians out to the library because one of the furnaces, the older furnace, as you may remember, we replaced a furnace last year at the library. We'll call it the back furnace. This is the front furnace. and the recommendation is that it be replaced. So, wanted to check with the board to see whether you, sorry, it's on mute, it really is. To see whether the board wanted me to move forward and get a quote to replace the furnace. I mean, obviously, we're talking about facilities and doing different things with them, so I don't know whether you want to try to hold off and just see if we can Band-Aid it.
What's wrong with it? What's the
It's
diagnosis?
old.
I'm old, but that
It's
doesn't mean you're
old.
replacing me,
I
so.
don't know, my head's
No, but
old.
we've talked about it.
No more chocolate for you.
I know that the past couple of times, it's been a case of the pilot light won't stay lit, so they have to come over and come and take care of that. And then there was some, I guess, junk in the pipes that had to be cleaned out. And I have not personally examined the furnace, I'm just going by what our maintenance technicians tell me.
How old is it, yeah?
I should have had that date with me. I think it's pretty, it wouldn't surprise me if it was 20 years old. I can find out for you.
I think we should get an estimate on what it's gonna cost to replace it,
Okay.
and I think we probably are gonna end up replacing it.
Well, I'd like to also know what's wrong with it.
Well,
Mhm.
that's, I think that would be part of, yes, I agree.
You know, I have agreement as well. Even though we have plans from restoration, addition, and so forth, we don't know if those things will pass.
Well, we don't know that it'll affect the furnace either, it might be, I mean, with the addition, you might have to add a third one, so.
Exactly. So let's see if we can get the cost function on that one.
Okay. Next item, my apologies, I suppose should have been on the agenda, is to review the warrant and discuss with the board how they, I don't know what to.
I think we have a cell phone policy, don't we?
It's turned off, it's muted.
Well, it's not that muted.
I don't know how to mute it more than it's muted.
Denise, would you catch the next call, please?
Yeah, could you just?
Maybe it's something important.
You've got the emergency bypass on.
I don't know how to, well then turn that off, I don't.
Emergency button.
Yeah, you can, it's my daughter, so you can bypass the mute so that it still rings. Anywho, so the warrant, if you wanted to review it and discuss who might want to present each of the warrant articles.
Sounds good. I don't have it in front of me, but you can read them all.
Okay,
And we can throw it at each other.
the first one is that the moderator does, the second two, I think the moderator typically does. One is a zoning
Yep.
amendment, the other is a building regulation amendment.
Well, Karen will be there anyways.
Article 4 is the all veterans tax credit.
So can we have Karen do 2 and 3 though?
Yes.
Because I don't think the moderator's gonna do 2 and 3, is she?
The moderator typically reads the planning and zoning. I mean, certainly, I'm assuming Ms. Rossi will be there to address any questions.
I'll do 4.
We got the volunteer for the veterans.
Okay. Article 5 is the purchase of the church parcel.
I'm not volunteering for nothing after you said I was old and you're talking about removing
I didn't
it.
say you were old. He said you were old.
No,
Well, you didn't disagree.
I said his pilot light went on.
I can do 5. We're gonna be doing a presentation before 5, so I suppose
Mhm.
I could do 5 and I can do 6
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I think you should do them together in tandem.
Okay. Article 7 is the purchase of the fire command vehicle.
Chief Nemeth?
Assign that to
Yeah.
Chief Nemeth.
Mhm.
Article 8 is the operating budget.
I did it last year, right? I can do that one again.
I can't remember.
I'll do it if you make me those slides of what's changed.
Okay. Article 9 is a deposit into the fire equipment capital reserve fund.
I vote for Nemeth.
Article 10 is deposit into the highway equipment capital reserve fund.
Should be Randy,
Can
right?
you make Randy do it?
Yeah.
Article 11 is deposit into the town building capital reserve fund.
I can do that one. Good.
Article 12 is the deposit into the highway department road and bridge.
That's Randy.
Article 13 is the deposit into fire ponds and cisterns. Article 14 is deposit into the internal service fund for accrued benefits.
I can do that.
Article 15 is the deposit into the transfer station capital equipment
Toby.
reserve fund.
Oh, he's gonna love you.
Yes, he is. Yeah, just give him some points, will you?
Article 16 is the deposit into the recreation capital reserve fund.
What's that?
I'll do it.
I
Yes, you're gonna have Larry do it?
Yep.
I won't be there.
He may not be there.
All right, we got the backup.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yep.
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
16.
Article 16, the deposit into the recreation
Yeah.
capital reserve
All right,
fund.
do that.
Article 17 is the reval capital reserve fund.
I'll do that.
Article 18 is the change to the public safety special duty revolving fund to allow purchasing equipment from the fire department.
Never.
So that was, you're not here.
Article 19 is the deposit of the $3,410 from the sale of timber on Maud Jones into the
Yes.
Conservation Land Stewardship Trust
Yes, Bill
Fund.
to do it?
Bill?
Sure.
I figured you were gonna speak to that anyways.
Article 20 is the easement on the 7.49 acres of the Leetown Forest.
He just volunteered.
Yes.
These two are together. Article 21 is the solar array.
The what?
Solar
Brown.
array.
Mr. Brown?
I'll do that.
Article 22 is the one that we received by petition relative to offshore wind power.
I'll do that.
And Article 23 is the contingency fund.
I'll do that one.
All right. Thank you.
What else, Scott?
I think that's it.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented. Second, discussion.
No.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
I just noticed that.
This looks like exactly the same one as that one.
No, the last time someone said that to me, I didn't know how they were different.
You showed me.
But you're right.
Oh, wait, no, that one wasn't. There should be one for me. I just printed a draft. There should be three, right?
You did say draft on it.
Yeah.
What's this one? Looks exactly the same as that one. This one.
Mm. No, this is different from this.
Okay, why is it got no tag on it?
Oh, because I tagged the draft. I was
There, we'll fix that.
Put the
There you go. Gotta make it legal. That was going your way.
more time.
What, oh. Sorry. I signed
Get
it
back
this
here.
spot too. I
Get
don't know
back
how
here.
that happened.
How come there's two Carrie Brown
Because
signatures?
I'm giving him a hard time, so send it back and I'll sign.
What is going on tonight between her phone?
He needs to, he's gonna have to cross out.
How can you sign both places?
I don't know how come. You know, how come? Please. If he hadn't made such a big deal out of it, nobody would have even noticed.
Well, yeah. I
I'm
would've been
crossing you
right.
out. You've been crossed out.
You do that.
Not even close.
Before I move on to the next area, I just wanted to mention to Mr. Hump that the reason I'm glad you're here tonight, because the presentation, part of the issue associated with that access is the removal of trees. They can remove their own trees in the right of way as they see fit. But they're originally talking about going right by the tennis courts, kind of diagonally going in, or coming through the back area. And I know the town, there's some trees out there that look pretty healthy, but there are some that are pretty bad. Probably what I would ask the board to consider, because the vote of the Board of Selectmen to allow this to occur to begin with, if they're gonna take down trees, they'll stump them as well, I would imagine. The cost is gonna be borne by the school district, not by the town of Lee. But I don't wanna get a wiggle waggle road either. So I hope you'll be involved with that.
Do I understand that the planning board is going to walk the property on Thursday? I thought I heard that, and
That is correct. You're welcome to come,
I would like to do that.
absolutely. Check with Karen,
I will.
she'll give you the time.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Why can't they go across the field? Why do they have to cut down trees?
Well, I think that's open for discussion. In fact, the original discussion is why can't you go through the parking lot and go around the back? It's
Well,
all
that's a
talk.
safety issue supposedly.
Right, that's a safety issue and also make a lot of noise for the kids.
Well, and the trucks are heavy, so you could get a lot of damage on that parking lot too as they go across it.
Well, if they
But I
put,
think certainly coming across the field.
even if they put in like a corduroy road or something to protect
Yeah,
it as
exactly.
much as possible, it would be preferable to taking down trees. I think probably the dead trees should be taken down, but I would want us to explore a corduroy road or something like that across there before we start taking down a whole bunch of trees. So,
And the other aspect is, remember, there has been some discussion from the Recreation Committee about redoing the tennis courts. If this is an opportunity where we can both benefit, it should be an open discussion. I heard that, Denise, she said make them pay.
well, that would be okay too, because then they could probably still kind of use the field a little bit. And if you take out the physical tennis court, because nobody really uses them, because it's not that great.
Yeah, they really need to be.
There's enough space between those trees that they could just go through there maybe.
Yes,
But
there
that's
is.
something they'll have to check out.
Anyways, it's something that came up to the planning board, and they didn't realize they had to come to the Board of Selectmen to get permission to cut down trees.
Do they pay a fee for that? In terms of, because it's a building permit, right?
Yeah.
Because if they didn't charge us for using Master School, I might be interested in letting them have it. But if they charge us every single year,
We're
so
gonna
we should
charge
charge
them
them
a
back.
fee. But we'll get it in the end, because it's part of the school district.
Yeah, but then you're only paying 1/3 of it, or 40% or whatever.
Okay, I just want to put that on the table while Mr. Hum is still here. Okay, item number 7, I move to go into a non-public session, New Hampshire RSA 91-A:32D, discuss church. All right, second.
Second.
Roll call vote, Mr. Bug.
Yes.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. LaCourse, yes, motion carries. Town administrator, join us. There's nothing to seal at this time. Number 9, miscellaneous unfinished business.
TCBC has a dry run tomorrow at 6 p.m. So we're going to be running through the presentation. It's almost done, close. John's working on some words for his slides. Other than that, looks pretty good. We got a total of 52 slides. But that's a little bit deceiving because we've taken and he's layered like 5 or 6 slides into one, so it looks like things are happening, but it's really a new slide. So we'll see what people have to say. It'll be the 10-day, right?
Yep.
So, should be good,
Good.
hopefully.
Well, the stuff in the e-crier, I think, has been very good, showing the pictures of, and explaining and what's coming up next, so. I think-
Well, you'll be getting another one this week for the proposal and the church property. So that will be in this project.
There might be a slight
Delay?
glitch on, a little change on that, but,
Uh-oh.
no,
Okay.
it's not an O, it's an improvement.
Oh, okay, all right.
I missed something with Dr. Marcy. You said there was a deliberative session for the school board. When is
Yes.
Yeah, 6th, next Tuesday?
The sixth.
Tuesday.
Yeah. 7th is the rain or weather, bad weather.
Annual meeting deliberative session, high school, February 6th, 7 PM.
Do you have color versions? Because I noticed he included the black and white ones, but do we have color ones that we can put in e-crier?
Well, that would be
Do you
good.
know?
When she emailed us the presentation, wasn't it in there?
Was it in color? Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah, that would
Then
be good
we
to
should
put in.
have it.
If anything, put those in the e-crier and then link to the documents, maybe, I don't know. If you can do that. Just so people will be aware of it, so they know what's happening in the school. Training's on Thursday, 2 to 5.
2 to 5.
What time?
Oh my God,
2 to 5,
2 to 5?
2 to 5 here.
this one.
Yes, this week.
This is a bad week to have it.
Is it bad? Oh, because of the,
Well, because we gotta get ready for the deliberative session.
yeah.
I didn't think about that. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Well, she's gonna be talking about time management, so you can figure out
Oh,
what
yeah,
you
this'll
need to
help.
do to get it all into.
Do it later.
Yeah, and he mentioned in terms of the middle school, they didn't have a meeting in January, because it was snowed out, and he postponed it, so the next meeting is this Thursday, at 7 o'clock. But we're gonna go through all the iterations, I think there's like 18 of them. We've had to score them, so we'll see, and we'll also get a presentation on potential, sites for a new middle school,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll let you know
Oh, that'd be
when
exciting.
they let us know what those are.
Mhm.
I'll let you know in terms of how the scenarios score as well, so.
Sounds good. Anything else from your side?
Thursday, 2 to 5, huh?
Got anything? We done?
Oh, we're done.
We done? Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Uh,
All right, motion carried. Return.